Who, when, where, why, and what do the 5 W's have to do with training for athletes and coaches? Welcome to the We Run With It podcast, hosted by your one and only Tim Murphy. No one else today, just me again. I know I'm coming up empty on my promises to get guests on, but soon, we'll get there. Anyways, here we go. I don't know why I stumbled upon the 5 W's again, but maybe it was when I was writing my little short story. However, I started to think about how the 5 W's don't just translate into getting your character plot ready for your novel, and about how they differ between athletes and coaches, and what do they mean for athletes and coaches. So we'll start with the who. Obviously, the athlete or the coach. And to break it down one more step, we got who is that person. So, to break that down, if you're coaching somebody, if you're coaching an athlete, you have to figure out who you are coaching. And it's not just Tim, per se. It's Tim, who is a lineman, who works full-time, who does train 6 to 7 days a week now because he has free time. He doesn't have children or a wife. But Tim could have children. He could have children and a wife. So that would be two totally different people. So if you're training me right now, I would say the questions for the coach would be figure out your who. For me, I would be honest and say during the week, on my work days, I'd like to train for minimum an hour, maximum hour 30, hour 45 seems to be good during the week. It doesn't overdo it. And then on the weekends, I'd like something 2 to 3 hours with dynamic warm-up, dynamic mobility, something to lubricate the joints. That would be, if you're a coach talking to an athlete, that's the feedback you would want. And then obviously roles reversed, if you're the athlete and you're getting coaching services, you should make sure your coach is asking you these questions, especially if you're paying for like a specific service, like a couple $100 a month for online coaching. Should get you someone who's going to check in once or twice a week and ask you how you're feeling and ask you like what time is allotted per workout and what you can honestly do without burning the candle on both ends. What else do we got on the who? To dive even deeper than that, I guess, if you're... I'm going to do most of this speaking from coach to athlete, and then I'll do roles reversed. I'll keep doing it that way, make it easier. So, on the coach, I would ask deeper things too, like what... On work days, how exhausted are you? How many hours of sleep are you getting? Do you feel like it's quality sleep that you're getting? And then also, everybody differs. So like someone like me, for the most part, like the last month I've been struggling because I've been sick. So I've actually had to sleep 8 or 9 hours every night, which sucks. But I'm doing it. But normally I would, if I was in a heavy training cycle and had a goal-specific time for, say, a marathon, high rocks, whatever it may be, I would tell my coach that, how do I put this? Or I guess if I were the coach, I would ask, is 6 hours of sleep all right? Is that something you can legitimately function on? Or do we need to set a schedule for you during this prep so that you are having at least 7 hours every night to get rest? That's something I would ask as a coach, is like, everybody's body is different. Obviously, most people do need around 8, but sometimes I can roll with 6-7 hours for months on end. Sometimes I do need 8 or 9. It's annoying, but honestly, I haven't really found my rhyme or rhythm of why. It's just seasons sometimes. Like in the summer, I feel like I can really roll. And then in the middle dead of the winter when it's freezing cold, I feel like I don't need a lot of sleep either. Don't ask me why, just how I am. And then in the fall and spring, I seem to need more sleep. Maybe someone with a doctor can figure that out for me, but I haven't looked too much into it yet. Just reflecting back on my life. So seasons, know yourself. And then obviously flip side of the athlete, it would just be verbalize that too. Like, hey, I would rather get in more miles and have more training block than worry too much about getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. I'm fine with 7. Or, hey, I know I have a marathon prep, so I should be running, 40 miles a week, 50 miles a week. But when I'm working full time, I'm someone who needs 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. So during my 5-day work week, I'm not going to be able to hit more than 45 minutes. That's all I got time for. I got to get the kids to bed. I got to make dinner, blah, blah, blah. My advice for that, which I'm going to go on a side note for a second for people listening. I was going to take the winter off, not off, but dial running way back. However, I just ran a 125 half, which was my fastest so far, and I feel great, and I've always wanted to hit a sub 3-hour marathon. So as of right now, February 1st, I believe, is the Huntington Beach marathon. I forget what it's called. I'm blanking out. It has a name for it. Anyways, I think that's like 100 days out right now. I think I'm going to see how I feel next week and what my plan is, because I already have the most mileage I've ever put on my body on this year, and it's October. What I'm going to do is what the Olympic marathon coach used to do back in the day. And all my weekend long runs, I'm going to threshold pace for a mile and then almost walk it out for a mile, or call it zone 2. So if I have a 20-mile run, every other mile is going to be threshold, probably for me between 7 to 7:30, depending on the day. And then my flip side, my recovery mile is going to be, I'm going to make it try to be somewhere 9:30, 10, try and go that low. And that way I'm not beating my body up. So I'm going to do that throughout the winter, and I'll do a whole other podcast on that. And I'll keep it updating for everybody. Or keep updating it for everybody, I should say. So, yeah, there's my side note. And honestly, during the weeks, the winter work for me, because I'm working outside, sometimes beats the crap out of me. Sometimes I still don't mind getting runs in when it's 20 degrees out. So, I'm really just going to, I'm happy for once in my life with all the mileage I've put on this year, how much mobility and strength work I've done. I've pretty much just had a perfect training year for me. I've had little things. I haven't had any big injuries, and I just ran my fastest half, so I kind of just want to keep it rolling and go for it. However, the previous years I've basically tore my hip flexor off, hamstring, shin splints, this. I've had all the runner injuries so far. So I also know that if I just go straight into a heavy prep back to 50, 60-mile weeks, or bump up, I should say, to 50, 60-mile weeks, all of a sudden, I feel like I'm just setting myself up for failure, and I feel good right now. So honestly, what I'm going to do is probably, I would say my perfect week's going to look like one speed work session, probably a bunch of 800-meter repeats, and then one long run. And I'm just going to build up every weekend, start with 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, and then taper. And then I'll probably just throw in 2 to 3 runs in between those that are just 4 to 5 miles and just whatever I feel like, nothing crazy fast, nothing crazy slow. I'm just going to go by feel this winter and see how it goes. So that's my side there. I'll keep updating. I'll do short podcasts on that, updating how my training's going. I'm going to start this next weekend, barring I feel like I'm mentally and physically there. And then, so in like 2 weeks, I'll probably start short podcasts about it. Okay. So we got who is done. So just find out, anyways, after my little tangent there, the who is just figuring out as a coach who you're dealing with, and as an athlete, putting yourself in the shoes of you're your own advocate. It's just like when you go to the doctors and they say nothing's wrong with you or blah, 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 or you go to get a massage. You don't say, if your shoulder hurts, you don't, and they ask, what do they want you to pinpoint on? You don't tell them your calf. You know what I mean? Like, if you know that, if you've been running for years and you know that, like for me, between 40 to 45 mile weeks is perfect. It's somewhere where I can still lift 5-6 days a week, feel fine, and somewhere where my body doesn't break down. As soon as I go over 50 miles a week, I just start hurting. And, you know, I don't know if it has to do with I'm on my feet all day at work too, blah, blah, blah. I don't really know. It just seems like that's my sweet spot. It took me years to find that out. If you're somewhere new in running, I would tell, obviously, your coach is going to know that too, and then maybe let them know that you want to try and find your sweet spot. So there's going to be weeks where it's like, hey, why don't we ramp up mileages to 50 or 60 eventually, and then see how we feel, and then see what you're working with there. But again, as the athlete, you advocate for yourself. So you have to be honest. You just like, hey, I'm married with 3 young kids. I want to run a marathon. I've ran a 3-hour marathon in the past, or whatever, a 4-hour marathon in the past. I'd love to break 4, but I only have 3 days a week, and one of them's going to be Sunday morning between 6 and 9 a.m. to get a long run in because you're busy. So if you're someone who's already built up a lot of mileage in life, just running 3 to 4 times a week is going to be plenty. I'm not saying in that year you're going to go from a 4-hour marathon to a 3-hour marathon if you're only running 3 days a week, but I'm confident with 3 to 4 runs a week that you can improve your time without burning yourself out. And honestly, running 4 times a week for years on end is going to probably benefit you more in the long run, because you're not going to get as many injuries as someone who hops into it and wants to run 7 days a week. So, there's my tear. There's your who. What is what I call goal specific. So, figuring out your what is, do I want to run a sub 3-hour marathon? Do I want to run a sub 2-hour half marathon? Do I want to just make it through a 5K without walking? That is your what. That's your goal. Your what is goal specific. Your what can be, I can barely run a mile right now and I'm really out of breath. I would love in the next year to be able to, run a couple miles and just feel overall in better shape. That's also a what. It doesn't have to be goal specific in a sense of time. It could be lifestyle. So I have young kids. I want to be able to move around better. Find someone who's going to help you with mobility and strength, and then mix in some endurance in there. Like your what is what you want out of life, and you tell that to your coach. If your coach doesn't care about that, find a new coach. Yeah, I was just thinking in my head. I already went backwards. I already started as the athlete instead of the coach. Anyways. So, same thing. Now flip side. As a coach, you got to figure out somebody's what. You have to pull it out of them. You have to figure out what, pretty much what their specific goals are, and then just make sure you dial them in so that you have progress. You have progress to track, I should say, so that you have something to be like, show your client, hey, this is what you wanted 3 months ago, this is how you're feeling now, or this is what your times are now. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a 500-pound deadlift this year or a sub 230 marathon this year. It could be something as simple as, it's the winter and my friends want to go on a 10-mile hike or hike some of the Appalachian Trail this spring when the weather gets a little better, and I am not in good shape at all. I don't want to, be walking 5 to 10 miles a day and be lagging behind or have my body fail. Those are all goals. So It doesn't have to be some extreme thing. I tend to go extreme, but I also, like I said, you got to remember, I am single with no children, except my dog acts like a child sometimes. Anyway, so we got who, what, when. When is pretty simple. When do you want this goal to happen? When do you want to be in shape? When do you want to run that? The more time you give a goal, obviously, I shouldn't say the easier. Well, yes, the easier it is to reach because you're allowing your body more time to adapt. However, I think setting up 3-month goals, 6-month goals, and then 2-year goals. And the reason why I skip a year is because I think in a 3-month time frame, you can have a real good heavy block, see how you feel after that, or maybe hit a race then, and then still go for another 3-month block. And then after that, after 6 months of if you've felt good and you're still going hard, that's when I think you should really dial back for a couple weeks. Like just, if you're running 50-mile weeks, go back to 20. Go on hikes. Like you can keep your mileage up, but don't make it running. And if you're training like lifting heavy or training high rocks in that time, like go back to workouts that are just fun. Like hammer 6 months out, and then go back to fun for a couple weeks, and then reevaluate your goals. Like maybe do 2 months of, I don't want to lose progress, but I don't want to necessarily go all out and mentally and physically burn myself out. And then you can, so that's where your 2-year goal comes into place of like, say you do a high rocks at, like for me example, I did high rocks at 130 last year. My 2-year goal, after I did that and realized how hard high rocks was, I was like, I do want to go sub hour in high rocks. Now, if I spent the whole year just training for high rocks, I probably could have got there. I just did a 108 in like 10 months later. But I set that as my 2-year goal because I also had an Ironman this year. I also had other things, so it's like I wasn't stressed out when that was my, like if I made that my 6-month goal and then also had an Ironman, then also wanted to run a sub 3-hour marathon. It's just like pick one thing at a time, and then you can have like your 2 to 3 year goals where it's like, hey, in 2 to 3 years, I'm running a pretty decent time now. This is what I want to do then. I also have this I want to do. Like that's where you can have a little bit of leeway with your goals. But then like the next 3 months, lock in. The next 3 months, lock in, and then take a little time. Have some fun. Don't burn yourself out. Use your fitness for other shit. And then get back into it. Who, what, when. There you go. Where matters in the sense of, I recently this year lived in Montana for a little bit in Bozeman. It's at 5,000 feet. And I use this example as where because I didn't really know where to go with where. Cheesy pin. But I feel like where matters in the sense of, like, I lived at elevation and then came back down for races, not on purpose. I'm not like some Olympic athlete. It just happened to work that way, and I really did feel a lot better. So my where is 50 between, like, where do you want to get your training in that's going to, like, if you have an ultra marathon, I'm going to be honest, you probably shouldn't, like, if you live in the city, that's where the where matters, because, like, your ultra marathon is going to be on trails. You're going to have rocks, stumps, uneven ground, up and down hills. If you're only getting, even if you're getting 80-mile weeks in on pavement, that's a lot of miles from most people. Once you get to that trail run and the first time you step on a rock, your body's not used to it. So if you're doing that city work and city running, and your goal is a ultra marathon, I would make sure you're incorporating a lot of little things like ankle mobility things, like strengthening your ankles, strengthening your knees, random, side-to-side movements, 1-foot hops, like a lot of band work, like just things that are going to be common when you're out there in the woods that you can't get now. Or when I say where, it means the other half of that is if you're living in the city, drive somewhere to where you have the trails if you're training for an ultra. Obviously, it's tough if you're someone who, like most of us, are just working full-time jobs and we want to do Leadville 100. Like, I live between Montana and Massachusetts right now. There's nowhere near that kind of elevation. Maybe some places where I'm around, but it would be kind of hard to replicate Leadville in Massachusetts, obviously. So, where matters, but there's always ways to train around it. So find people that have done it before, ask coaches their advice. Yep, I did it again. I went backwards. So as a coach, also, again, just the flip side of that, ask those questions. Where's your race? And it doesn't really matter, I guess, for like indoor. Like, I'm just got into High Rocks this year, so like where doesn't matter for that. Because they're all indoor and most of them are not. Like, elevation doesn't matter, but I guess the where, in my mind, I didn't think too much about where, to be honest with you peeps. But yeah, it's more of if you're getting marathons in, like, look at your elevation. If you're getting ultras in, get some trail runs in, get your body used to that. Like, I personally like running on the dirt, running on the leaves and stuff better anyway. For like my zone 2-3 work, just longer runs, like at a slower pace, and I just feel like it gets your legs like just used to everything, climbing, whatever. It's just it gets them used to everything. So that would be my advice if you have ultras coming, is just make sure you're getting out on the trail. Or again, if you're in the city and you're stuck in the city, do bleacher run, like do hill sprints, find the biggest hill around. Like, that stuff matters. And if you're always running on a track or a flat course, and then all of a sudden you get thrown into something that's uphill, downhill, uphill, like, your body is not going to be used to it. It's going to suck. So just prepare for the elements. And then we got who, what, when, where, and why. The why is just like any other why ever in life. Why do you want it? Why do you want to hit the sub 3? Why do you want to run a 100-mile race? Why do you want to get a sub whatever High Rocks time? Why do you want to hike the Appalachian Trail? Why do you want to be able to move around with the kids and sprint around with them on the beach next summer? Nail down your why, write it down, and don't forget it. I'm not going to harp on this one because I feel like there's a million motivation podcasts or blah, blah, blah out there. So I'm not trying to be the most motivating person ever. I'm just trying to get people a little more ecstatic about life. So just nail down your why. That's it. It's that simple. And if you don't know it, like if you're just like, hey, I don't know, I've just been training and I'm really good at running, and I ran a 2-something marathon and now I think I can hit a 2:30 and that's gonna gain me this or gain me that. I mean, good for you, but just break it down. Like, in the long run, why you're doing it? Do you want to? Is it just because you like the consistency of training and you want to better yourself? Is it because that time makes you feel good in a certain way after you can, like, if your sole purpose, I guess what I'm saying, is just to get a time to brag about it or get a time to show yourself, even if you're not like someone who outwardly cares, like, so if you just care yourself, I'll tell you from experience, it's just going to be fleeting. So nail down your why. For example, I used to care about times in the sense of I want this time because that's what, most elite people are getting, or most, whatever. Now I care about time because it shows that I'm putting in the work. It shows that I'm staying consistent. It also shows the flip side, that I'm resting and recovering enough, because I used to just get injured all the time because all I would do is beat the crap out of myself. It also shows I'm doing enough mobility, so my body's allowing me to open up more. And then on a total spectrum of that, when I hit certain times or I have certain time goals, it shows my goal I feel like part of my purpose in life is to show other people their true potential. And the one way to show other people their true potential is by showcasing mine. So instead of being like, oh, I did this, I did that, it's more of like, hey, you know how slow I used to be, or you know how blah, 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 how long this has taken me, but I did it. So it's like, it's not just about me. And I feel like for other people, that's important too. Like, if you never nail down the fact, and again, I just want to put a disclaimer on this podcast again, which I'll say a lot, like, who am I? Just take what I say with a grain of salt. But this is what's helped me out, is it's not just my sub 3 hour marathon time. It's the fact that if I do hit that, people see that saw me partying my face off 6 years ago and just start running and barely be able to run 2 miles without fucking feeling like I'm going to throw up. And then I just hit a sub 3 hour marathon 5-6 years later. It's just like they see that, and then they see that they can change themselves. That's what I feel like a big part of my purpose is in the world. And that's why I'm doing We Run With It, is to let the light from up above shine on me and then through me. I don't need it, use myself as a mirror so that other people can see the best in themselves. Anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed that episode today, the 5 W's. And yes, I will keep everyone updated in the next couple weeks on how my training is going to go this winter. Maybe I'll do a little, I'll do like videos every week on the gram too, to keep people updated. So, I'll check back in with y'all. Thanks for listening. Get out there and run with it, baby. Peace.